Linda.
All right,
I don't see Linda.
We're recording?
we're recording.
Hi, Linda.
Hi.
Linda, before you came on, we have new tonight with us is Scott. Scott was changing to another room. There he is.
Yep, I'm doing a squirrel now just because I know it's going to get loud once the kids get back.
Scott's in from California. I think this is
Hey,
his
Linda.
first time
Nice to
joining
talk
us.
to you live.
Scott's one of our associates.
Yep.
And Scott, Linda's our president.
Yes, Linda and I corresponded briefly, and thank you very much for your welcome.
Scott, where do you live in California?
I am in Alameda, which is just across the bay from San Francisco, so right off the Oakland shore.
I'm down just north of San Luis Obispo.
Oh, nice.
You're south of the fires.
Well, I might be moving kind of down that direction.
The fires are everywhere, so.
Linda, I'm putting you back in control of the whole meeting, okay?
All righty.
I'll jump back in when need be.
So Larry is apparently going to get online, right? Jerry.
Larry was on briefly. He was having some trouble.
Oh. Okay.
That might be Larry that was on the phone thing that was on. I'm not sure if he still is or not.
I don't see him.
If not, I can lead the discussion for a while, but you got anything else you want to cover first?
No, that was the main program for today. So you're it.
Well, guys, it's good to be back. Just to let you all know, we had a fantastic motorcycle trip. I'm not over it yet. Feels funny not being on a motorcycle after that. I don't know. Anybody got any questions about the trip beforehand? Rory and Judy are here.
No, you took a lot of good pictures. I enjoyed following your trip through your pictures.
Well, I'm glad you did. There was a lot of people that were following us. The primary person that I was putting those up for was Carlton Purnell. He was watching through his wife's Facebook quite a bit, and so he was originally supposed to be on the trip with us, and with his ailments, that makes that impossible. So it was kind of nice to keep it up to date with him.
How's Carlton doing? What's his current status?
He had a what did you call it? You guys remember? He has a scan every 3 months or something like that, and he had one. I could be wrong. 3-4 weeks ago, and it actually showed that the tumor has shrunk.
Oh wow!
Yeah, which is a big surprise. He's already lived almost a year now past what the doctors originally said he was going to live. So
great.
Yeah. So who knows? So he's back to talking about getting some sort of a triking system for his motorcycle again.
He's not still riding his bike, is he?
No. And to be fair and honest, he probably never will.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have I don't think he has the total capacity to mentally handle it, even if it is a
nice bike he's got. Wow.
Yeah. He had a brand new one on order that he had to go and cancel when this all came up. So it was going to be another one. It was going to be another loud Harley. You can be sure of that.
Yeah.
Well, guys, evidently there was some discussion brought up while I was gone on this trip, or we were gone on this trip, that had to do with IFMR versus club and the gray space in between. Larry's not back on yet here again, I guess. And so evidently Chris had volunteered to have a discussion about that, a presentation about that. And sometime late yesterday, I found out Chris can't be here, and I became the backup plan, according to Chris. So I'm here as the backup plan.
You mean Chris Jones?
Yeah. So I somehow became the backup program here today. So anyway, I'm not that prepared, but hey, I can make it up on the fly as you want. I thought maybe the best way to do this is make this more as a facilitated discussion and talk to the differences between a fellowship and a club, and then maybe open up to questions to help define this. Let's talk about club first. clubs have a sense of community, and this has been a total new and different thing. At least I thought it was completely new and different. I found out at the international convention, I'll call them the Flyboys, but the Airplane Club, whatever that one's called, the World Fellowship for that, they started a Rotary Club as well. They had been doing the same sort of thing for the last couple of years. And now that I'm back, I'm going to connect with them, see what things they've learned and what ideas they have and such. Theirs is primarily developed out of England, I believe. And so it'll be interesting to see how they run things and what obstacles they've come across and how they solve them, stuff like that. So it'll be kind of fun to work with them on that. So this club that we're in right now, we're still learning. I hope you all appreciate that, and appreciate that we're still, I think, going to be learning for 2 or 3 years who we are as a Rotary Club. And I think that's a great thing to learn with and do together. I think it's kind of exciting. It's a great way to go back and relook at Rotary. Those of us that were Rotarians before, relooking at what our feelings about being Rotarians are and relearning that whole aspect again from new eyes and as such, as well as facilitate that same, I think, wonderful relationship for the half a dozen of us that are new to Rotary as well. And so it's going to be kind of a cool experience, I think. Fellowships, now, like I said, we're going to keep learning, but somewhat differences in clubs. Clubs operate under the synopsis or under the authority of Rotary International, okay? What we're allowed to do, what we do, how we basically operate is a fundamental thing associated with our charter with Rotary International and our bylaws and that sort of thing. And Rotary International controls that in ways as Rotary grows and changes as well. Fellowships are not controlled by Rotary International per se. There's not a definition to how they have to operate. Clubs generally operate under the 5 areas of Rotary, being that of vocational service, club service, international service, community service, and I missed one. Oh, the new one. They call it New Generations, but it's youth service. Fellowships function totally under fellowship. Only under the fellowship portions of Rotary is what it's about. It's one commonality. And the motorcycling fellowship addresses all the different aspects of motorcycles, and it's meant to be just an enjoyable thing. Once in a while, they may do something like a polio run and raise funds, or maybe do something else, but it's a once in a while, and it's not really in their charter to be doing so, whereas doing the projects and doing things like that under a club level is more of our charter to do things like that. I'm coming in to being president of IFMR starting a year from now for North America. And fundamentally, I was asked to come back in and do that. I've been somewhat of a membership guru anyway to help rebuild IFMR North America. At one time, IFMR North America was over 400 members. Today, well, actually, when we went to the convention, we were about 150. We're back over 200 now since the convention. And so we're working on that. Yeah. IFMR, actually, what I'm going to be going through now that this club's up and running and we have our leadership team in place and doing its thing, I'm going to be having to spend more of my time back dedicated to 2 things. One, the Rotary projects that I work on overseas, as well as my commitment to IFMR and helping make that a better organization as well. And one thing I need to learn over this next year is why different people are joining have joined IFMR and what they expect to get out of it. I'll tell you, IFMR, I got out of it the fellowship aspect. Here about 2008, 2009, I started going on some of the rides, okay, and I think I started going out like once a year. 4 years into it, I was going 4 or 5 times a year on the rides that we're on. And the East Coast here in the last 10 years, there's been a commitment of 2 to 4 rides a year that have been developed by different sections of the East Coast. My understanding that was largely the case on the West Coast 10, 12, 14 years ago. And the West Coast was everything for IFMR at that time. I think part of my goal will be to help develop IFMR to where we've got this same sort of camaraderie going on throughout North America, not just in spots in North America. But I need to learn why people join IFMR. Quite frankly, I didn't really, when I joined, I didn't really expect to go on more than one ride every 5 years, to be honest with you. I joined to get the pin and say, hey, I'm a motorcyclist and I like whatever. And I expect there's a lot of people who are like that. They just join things. Terry's not on board, but you know, I'm a member of his fellowship as well, the Whiskey Drinkers Fellowship. That's I got
That's
the
a
pin.
good one.
I got
Yeah,
the
yeah,
pin,
that one.
right? And there's a number of people that collect things like that, and they belong. But what they actually do in it is another story. And I suspect there's a lot of people that
I'm
way.
also a member of the Beer Fellowship. That's another good one to be part of.
There you go. And but I think our IFMR is more active in terms of socially getting involved together than some of those other ones. But anyway, I want to find out, and that's what I'm going to be working on, is trying to find out more and more what people would like to get out of this IFMR organization, what they're not getting right now or what have you. But we'll see how it goes from there. Clubs, I don't know. I guess it's time to open up the discussion on with that basic background. What questions do we have? I guess one of them was somebody said something about why belong to both.
Yeah. Hey, Jerry, this is Larry. Can I comment on one of the ways I use the fellowship when I travel?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So my wife and I did a motorcycle tour in Norway a couple of years ago, and I put the word out to the IFMR people in Scandinavia that we were coming through, and I'd love to, meet for a beer or meet for coffee or whatever. And we met 4 different Rotarians, all IFMR members. One of them was also a pilot and gave us an aerial tour of Oslo, which was pretty spectacular. And my wife and I are going to Europe in 10 days to ride the Alps, and I've done the same thing. Put the word out to IFMR members in Germany, Austria, Italy. And we have one couple that booked a night at the same hotel we're booked in. And I suspect we're going to have 2 or 3 riders riding with us, in addition to just maybe stopping for a beer, having a beer at the end of the day or coffee at the beginning. So that's one way that I expand my fellowship with Rotary and with IFMR.
That's exactly one of the reasons why I'm interested in joining, to be honest.
And I'm sure if somebody from another country or another state were to say, hey, I'm coming to ride the Sierra Nevada in Reno, you want to meet for beer, I'd be there in a heartbeat. Anybody who's coming by Reno and the Sierra Nevada, I'll meet them, assuming I'm home.
We used to do a spring ride in San Luis Obispo every year, but that's been over 20 years ago. And other than Scott, and there's one other fellow whose name I can't remember, I think we're the only California people in this club, but I'm sure there are several in the IFMR, but I quite honestly haven't connected with anybody. The people that I knew locally that I used to ride with in that group, I still ride with some of them, but they're no longer in that group.
I suspect where we have gray matter is mostly in our associate membership than we have in the regular members. I mean, I suspect that a lot of the associates are really interested. Well, partially this is something new and different, but also I think that they're missing or finding a gap, or IFMR NA is not quite doing it for them, and this helps add to it. I don't know. Maybe some of the associates want to address that. I don't know.
Well, as a new kid on the block, one of the reasons that I joined this chapter was as an associate anyway. I was kind of on the fence about a local chapter versus this one. And particularly between jobs, it makes sense for me to have the networking and the face-to-face fellowship of the Oakland Club. But I thought, I'd still like to be part of this. The price is very modest. And between this and the IFMR, I can kind of have the same kind of motorcycle ambitions that Larry was talking about with my international travels, usually on business.
I will echo what Larry said. As a year ago, I did contact, or a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, whatever it was now, when I was down in Australia, I contacted the IFMR people there and ended up going on a 3-day ride with one of the guys there. And he ended up being our speaker. The guy talked to us about the Cambodia stuff last December. But yeah, I'll echo that. Travel, the opportunity to go ride with somebody.
Good
It's
idea.
a great idea. I've done it through Rotary, going to Europe, but now it's pretty cool to think I can cycle through the Alps or wherever to get in to check that out. Thanks for sharing.
I think Rory and I, through IFMR, we were Rotarians, members of a club, but we joined IFMR. We have met so many nice people. We've seen so much of the U.S. with the different rides. We've planned with Jerry, and I think we've planned 3 different rides and done them. It's just a wonderful way to get to know people and to have a good time with people, and it's just fellowship. But you have the commonality of all liking to ride motorcycles, and it really doesn't matter what type of motorcycle you have, although we do make fun of yellow motorcycles. But other than that, I mean, it's just a great way to meet people that like to do the things we like to do.
Jerry, would this shirt go with your cycle? See the Rotary on there?
When you're on trips, when you're on extended trips with people on motorcycles, you learn a lot of stuff about them. Judy's a closet yellow motorcycle lover, okay? She certainly is. Now, I exist only for her to pick on because I have that yellow motorcycle. And I've also learned through our club, there's several other people like to pick on that yellow motorcycle too. Linda? Where's John Cram tonight?
I think he said he's in Edinburgh. Got to feel sorry for him.
Hey, speaking of motorcycle riding opportunities, at the Toronto convention, I ran into him again. He talked to me about this a year ago. And there's a gentleman in IFMR, he's out of Ohio somewhere. His district has a project and they have to deliver, I think it's school books into Inner Mongolia. And he is putting together I don't know how long, it might be a 2-week-long project motorcycle riding trip in Mongolia next summer. And if it does come together, I'm planning on going that, just to give you a heads up. The other thing is on this trip, we were joking earlier in the meeting about our direct route back from Linda's back to Michigan. Somehow went through Colorado, and Tom Dines had wrote me earlier this summer about the possibility of putting together a future IFMR ride, and we went down and pre-rode some of that. So Tom is planning on throwing together a 2 or 3 day ride centered out of Breckenridge, Colorado next summer, and I think I can tell you it was a fantastic place to ride there. And when that happens, you're all going to want to think about doing that ride. The other thing is in September, and the reason we went on down to Arkansas is Raymond Plew, the immediate past international president of IFMR, has put together a ride down out of Eureka Springs, Arkansas, which is where Rory and Judy and I stayed. We actually stayed in the hotel that Raymond's picked out. I think that's the 2nd weekend, or is it the 3rd weekend of September?
So 13th, 14th.
Okay.
whatever that weekend is.
Okay, that weekend. And I will tell you that, we saw some fantastic scenery and riding all around the entire trip we did. But those 2 days we spent in that area, Arkansas, that part of Arkansas has some of the most beautiful riding scenery, curves in every corner that you could imagine. We did the pigtail, and that pigtail is you can take it fast. It will satisfy the novice rider all the way to the guys that's been experienced in doing all the twisties. And so it's going to be a great ride. I got to recommend you go on it. I'm trying to convince my wife that I'm allowed to go again, but we'll see what happens. But so there's some great rides coming up that y'all should consider, really. John's putting together another one for next spring, I think, out in the West Coast. In fact, I think he's heading to Ohio soon to ride the Windy Nine, which Rory Judy and I put a ride together 4 years ago, I guess it was.
Probably 3, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's a great place to ride too. So there's some good rides going to be coming up through IFMR.
I think that's the key to getting, the membership to stay and to grow is putting on rides.
Yeah, that's right. That's why I joined.
IFMR, Blair, IFMR or this club?
No, IFM.
IFMR.
Was for
Well,
good
and
rides in areas that I would not ordinarily, get to see.
One of the things clubs do is projects, and I had envisioned 2 different things for our club. One was the idea of doing stuff that we could do remotely together. Well, actually 3 different things. One was the idea of doing stuff that we can do remotely together, like all plant a tree some weekend or whatever. This idea John had come up with the bicycles, collecting bicycles and giving them to that group of foundation people. I think that's a great thing that we can do community service-wise. The other thing I thought of, though, is we could be kind of a fundamental portion of doing things to help make IFMR better. We are close to committing to new symbols for IFMR, and once that's committed, I've got the agreement of the leadership of IFMR that our club can take over the merchandising. And so we can do fundraising for that as well. Selling the shirts and the pins and all that stuff. Thoughts or comments or discussion on any of that?
It's an interesting highlight, Jerry. I've got this guy here. I'm sure you're all very familiar with. Was kind of one of my inspirations. This is Bob Muchler's book, and he's doing an IFMR event in September.
Oh,
Yeah, but the idea that you're combining a motorcycle trip with some kind of a service project is pretty appealing to me, because I've gone out there with lots of different groups and folks and burned a lot of gas and had some fun. But the idea of a project with it is appealing.
No, I know.
But I think you'd stay over.
Yeah.
I like the club taking over the merchandise for IFMR. I think that's a good idea.
Well, it's all in place if we want to do it. So here by the end of the summer was the commitment for the new symbols. We have one that we're ready to commit to. We're just kind of waiting for some professional person that we've got working on it to tweak it a little bit, but we'll have that unveiled hopefully here in the next couple of weeks. The challenge was to get something that looked good for all the motorcycles and type of motorcycles everybody rides, and not make it look like one or the other. Look, I'm getting called away back to my family event here. Linda, you want to take over the discussion again?
Yep, I can take it over.
Really
Larry,
good to
you're-
see everybody, okay?
Okay, Jared.
Thanks, Jerry.
Bye, Jerry.
Good seeing you, Jerry. Thanks.
I'll catch up with you all next week.
Yes, sir.
Good.
Hopefully this doesn't kill the meeting. No, it shouldn't. Linda's host. Okay.
Find out. Still there. Okay. So, any other questions for Larry?
I'm still here.
No. Does anybody have questions for Larry on IFMR? None.
Well, one of the differences is kind of a mandate. So clubs have a mandate for some kind of projects, where IFMR, there's been projects associated with it, like Bob Muchler's work. But
Yeah.
Fellowships in general have less project focus, right?
As far as I know, yes. They're more about the fellowship and the enjoyment of whatever the passion is for that fellowship, whether it's beer drinking or whiskey drinking or RVing or motorcycling. It's more about the fellowship and the getting together and enjoying that particular activity. Certainly, Bob Muchler is a very unique character. I've met him, and yeah, turning his fundraiser into an IFMR event, I think, is a great idea. And that's just a personal thing. If any individual in IFMR wanted to do a ride that benefited something like polio, or had a purpose, and then made it an IFMR ride, that's certainly doable.
Thanks.
Have you heard anything about international rides?
We don't. I have not seen any newsletters or information coming from international. I did get an email out of Egypt. Egypt does a ride, and I'm trying to remember what it's supporting, but it's not really IFMR. It's more Rotary clubs using motorcycling as a ride to do a fundraiser out of Egypt. I know that the international IFMR president now is in Germany. Dirk, I believe, is his name. They're planning an international ride based out of the Hamburg convention. So I suspect that will happen. We tried to do it for Toronto, but none of the hotels were willing to do a block of rooms because it was the high season for vacations out there. And I know when we did the LA convention, which I believe was 2008, we did a ride. And of course, the 2005 convention, I rode with Ron Leister and a group from Santa Monica to Chicago on Route 66. So that was kind of fun. So usually wherever the convention is, the IFMR people try to put on a ride to encourage people to come. But beyond that, I don't see a lot of newsletters or anything about international rides. Certainly you could contact the organizations if you're planning to go to a country like Germany or Scandinavia or something. You could make contact and see if there are rides going.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? It's so quiet today.
Jim, worth mentioning to you and Linda that email link for your request for material for the Veterans Day presentation. I sent something to you in a bounce, so whatever was in the email, I need to get a newer link from you.
No, it's just an email address. It should work. You can try again. I've gotten quite a few, so.
Oh, you have? Maybe it's just me.
Yeah, I get a couple hundred a day, so.
All right.
Did you copy it or did you type it?
I think I just clicked on the link in Linda's email.
Okay.
I'll send it to you separately.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Just CC me on it and he can just reply to all.
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect.
I went on a ride in about 1998 It was called the South African Friendship Tour. It was an IFMR event. It was probably 30 or 40 riders from 6 or 7 countries from all over the world. And it was after apartheid ended, and the Rotary clubs in South Africa wanted to share their country with other people around the world. So we went there and spent about 12 days. We rode from Cape Town to Johannesburg on a BMW. And along the way, we stayed with Rotarians in every town we stopped in. It was a great trip. Fabulous. So that's why I was asking about the international. Hard to beat that.
That sounds like a fabulous trip.
Hey, Larry, are you thinking of the Cross Egypt Challenge for the one in Egypt?
Excuse me?
Are you thinking of the Cross Egypt Challenge? There's a Rotary Club involved with that.
Yeah, that's. I got that email, but I didn't read it in detail. But they've been doing it for several years. The email might say how many years, but several years they've been doing that.
That's one reason why we started writing, but we've never done it.
Yeah, Jim, I've done that kind of thing with former colleagues before in biotech when I'm overseas for 3 or 4 years running, a bunch of guys mostly based out of Germany. And we'd do a ride every year. When the boss had asked me, when do you want to have a class over there? We need a class in Darmstadt in the fall. I'd say it has to be these 2 weeks because the following week is when these guys get together and ride. So the same way I envisioned this club as a way to kind of expand my international riding friends.
Yeah, I think you're going to have to be proactive.
Yeah, that's the key. I think being proactive, reaching out and making contact.
I did a motor discovery tour down to the Copper Canyon a few years ago. And I still keep in touch with a few of those guys. Go see them, ride every once in a while. So that's another good way. Those tours are kind of interesting.
Linda, we just kind of BSing right now.
Yeah.
I apologize. I apologize for being late, everybody. It's just a long story. Air conditioning is needed in the South. I'll just say that.
Are you? Hey, you made it, Terry. That's the big thing.
Yeah. I do have some good news, though. Our Somerville Evening Rotary Club has decided to help with the Guatemala project from this club.
Oh.
So they're going to send out a check for $500.
Nice.
To support that project.
Good.
You know, and it gives us a little check mark in our club too to, you know, supporting an international project.
Good.
That's number one. The number two is I also talked him into giving us $500 for a kind of seed money to start our Rotary Club. You know, we don't have a banner. We don't have a bell. We don't have badges. I mean, so Linda, I'm kind of looking forward to getting it. And I'm not even absolutely sure who our treasurer is and where to send this money to. So
Rory's the treasurer.
Rory is, okay.
That's nice of your club to do that.
Well, all our clubs in our district, you know, when a new club forms, usually our district governor sends out a message. And everybody, you know, pony up $50 to this new club, you know, kind of thing.
Nice. We did that for a Rotaract club we started, but I like that.
So that's funding we can use with whatever we need.
Cool. Tell them thank you for us. Or even
Absolutely, I
better,
will.
send an email or an address and I'll write a thank you, or one of us will write a thank you.
Okay.
Hey, Terry, you got my address?
Rory, send it to me in a message, will you?
Okay.
And I'll write it down.
What else? Anybody want to hear more about Rory and Judy and Jerry's trip?
It was long.
Yeah.
All I know is looking at Judy's face, she got a lot of sun.
No, actually, my hands got sun, but we had really good weather. I think we only had a couple of days that it actually rained. All the places we stayed except 3 were really, really nice. We probably stayed in one of the worst places I've ever stayed at. But when you don't have much of a choice and you're tired, you just deal with it.
Was that the Blueberry Inn?
No.
Actually, no. This was there was one worse than the Blueberry Inn. Yeah. Where Sparta, Illinois.
It was the Sparta Motel. And what we didn't know was there's a 10-day-long skeet shooting world competition going on.
There were like 4,000 people in this little town. So we took what we could get, and it wasn't much. But we saw a lot of beautiful country. We met some really nice people. Jerry got to take a lot of pictures, which is what he wanted to do. We would always start off in the morning, usually with Rory. We would be in the lead, and then the weather would get nice, and we'd be in pretty country, and we'd switch so Jerry could put his GoPro on, and he'd stop whenever we said, "You stop when you want to take a picture," and that's kind of how our days went, and it was fun. It was really good, and we're still friends. After spending all that time together, we're still friends. That's a good thing.
How many days were you gone in total, Judy?
36.
Wow.
36 or 7, something like that.
We left here, our house, July 1st, and we got back Sunday. So it was just about 35 days, 36 days.
Wow.
So about, almost 12,000 miles.
I believe I got 12,700.
How's the
And you're
transmission
still
doing?
talking to each other.
Yep.
Yeah.
What's that, Linda?
I didn't say anything.
I said, how's the transmission doing?
Well, the drivetrain's still making noise. I got to get it in.
But the transmission works very well. You should say that.
Yeah, Rory,
It works. Let me put it that way.
I can see Judy's hand behind her head there.
I'm not worried about it.
I like the transmission. It's really smooth, so I don't get jolted at all. I like that.
For the most part, it's working fine. There's some noise issues in the engine transmission, so we'll have to get it back in.
How's that walking pace feature?
A walking mode?
Yeah.
It works pretty good most of the time. Occasionally it has a chance, it decides it wants to shudder and jump, but mostly it works really good.
Huh.
If you do it right, you can actually turn the bike around in its own, if you want to draw a circle around it, give yourself a couple of feet. You can kind of walk it around and turn it around without getting outside the circle.
Wow.
Crazy.
But yeah, for the most part, it works great. I love it.
What kind of warranty you got on that?
About 7 years.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It came with 3 and I bought an extra 4. But it gave me the full, if anything happens on the road, they come pick it up, take care of it. So I had that on the last one too, and I never needed it, but it was always there. Tire wear on the first tire, rear tire was about 5,000 miles. Don't know whether to chalk that up to the Canadian and Alaskan roads or just the tire itself. This one's lasting a little bit longer.
And we bought the only tire in Alaska, in Anchorage, and then we had them put it on in Fairbanks.
How were the roads up there?
They were better than they were 10 years ago. There's a lot of tar and gravel.
They use that chip seal. So it kind of, guy said I got 5,000 miles on it. He says, "Hey, you're doing pretty good. About top is usually 6 or 7 on a good tire."
But it's not loose gravel anymore?
No, very rarely. It's well,
There was
if it's fresh chip seal, yeah, there's loose gravel on top, or loose crushed stone on top. But other than that, it's pretty good shape.
Or is that on a wing?
Yeah, I've got a 2018 wing tour with the DCT, the automatic.
Nice. Yeah, we
Pardon?
I test drove one of the 18 wings in down at Coda in Austin this spring.
Okay. Did you do the automatic or the stick or?
In this case, I did the manual, but then later on this fall for the May ride, we meet up in Tennessee, a bunch of other guys in biotech who started out that way anyhow. And I took the Africa Twin with the DCT, and I was really impressed with it.
Jerry's coming tomorrow around.
You can't shift as fast as that thing can.
Right.
And it kept it. We were in the mountain. Well, for the mountains pulling the trailer, it was working it, but for the most part, get it just Judy and I or by myself. It'll keep it in a power band if you want it. I was in tour most of the time. Put it in sport mode. You better hang on.
Upstairs if you want to watch.
Yeah, I saw Norton under your profile, and I'm thinking that's not the bike you're talking about.
Upstairs if you want to watch.
A Norton under my profile?
It just says Rory and Judy, Norton something.
Norton Shores.
Norton Shores.
Norton Shores. Oh,
Where we live.
Yeah, got it. That makes more sense.
Now this is our fourth gold one.
Nice.
So as you roll on the throttle, it just starts to go?
Yeah, it just depends. I mean, depends on how hard you get on, what mode you're in. I've got economy. Economy, if you take off smoothly, it'll be in 7th gear by the time you hit 35, 40 miles an hour. And it just steadily rolls into it. Sport mode, first shifts out somewhere around 55 or 60. So I mean, it'll move with it. Tour program, it's a little more aggressive, but not as good as the economy. And then I've got a rain mode where it takes a lot of the torque out of it so that you don't spin.
But you can manually shift it too, huh?
Yeah.
Yes, I've got a drive or manual automatic mode. And then I can also, while it's in automatic mode, I can downshift or upshift twice.
Yeah, it's the same thing with that AT and with that Africa Twin. And there's never once on that trip that I wish that I'd gotten the manual. It did what I wanted it to do.
Yeah. Yeah, we did mileage-wise. Judy and I was pulling a trailer with I'm not sure how many pounds in it. I only had about 30 pounds of tongue weight on it. Where we're down, I think overall for the trip I got 40.2. When I was out riding by myself, well actually when Judy and I were out riding on it, we were pulling anywhere from 48 to 50. And I went out with Jerry by myself and I was getting 52. 52.
Nice.
So I mean it'll get some good mileage.
And this is actually a clutch, right? It's not a torque converter like a car.
Kind of hard to explain. It's got twin shafts with basically a clutch pack on each one. So it's shifting. You got first, third, fourth, fifth, and seventh on one shaft, and second, fourth, and sixth on the other one. So it's supposedly going to line them up as you need it and shifts into the next one. It just works its way down through it.
The DCT stands for dual clutch technology or something like
Right.
that.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know if it's a centrifugal clutch or if it's I know it's not a torque converter. I've got to get into it more. I haven't really studied this one. But we went from, I went from a manual to this, something different. She likes the wind protection, which I can tell the difference when she can't, because we have the helmet communications, the Cena set.
Right.
When I put the windshield all the way up, I can hear it cut down the wind noise in her mic.
Right. Yeah, I run the Santa 10C myself.
I think we got the, pardon?
Oh, the 18 is the first one with the adjustable shield on the wing, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That, the steering is got that new, I forget what their term they're using for the new steering on it.
Mm-hmm.
As David can tell you, they've had it in BMWs for years, and Honda just finally got their version of it. And
Yeah.
it works great. No dive, very smooth going over the bumps. And you got to train yourself not to watch the forks because they're busy doing this while you're going straight.
I noticed that.
Wheel goes straight up and down, right?
Yes, it goes in a horizontal, vertical plane.
Well, down in Austin, my buddy and I at the MotoGP were doing some demo rides, and we'd gotten right off, no offense intended if any of your Harley riders, we'd gotten right off the Harleys and just, be heavy and ungainly, didn't handle well on the curbs. And then went from there to test drive the wings, and it's just like silk. It's great.
Well, the one big thing, that I noticed going around curves and such, he can get a heck of a lot lower.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell the difference.
Yeah.
That I'm lower to the ground than I ever was on the other one. So I've mentioned that several times. I said, aren't I getting a little low here? But it handles really well. I can, it does. It goes lower though.
You can reach out and file your nails on the pavement.
I probably could have if I wanted to.
I mean, on the 05, I was already scraping where I'm not even touching my boots yet.
Mm-hmm.
Although we did scrape once.
On the new bike.
On the new bike.
Yeah.
There goes the warranty.
Now we hit a big dip right in the middle of a curve. All of a sudden, I mean, it wasn't a hole. It was a hole in the road, but it was paved that way. Why, I don't know, but there was a big dip in it, and it was just like a big 3-foot hole, right in the middle of the curve. Down, hit the center stand, and ground a little off of that.
Well, I've been looking at some of the sportier bikes like the new FJR. It's got cruise control, and it's got the adjustable windshield, and it's probably a couple 100 pounds lighter than the Gullwing, so may not be as roomy.
Well, this one is not as roomy as our other one. This one is it's actually
luggage-wise.
Well, luggage-wise, but it's more sporty than the other one.
Right.
If you look at ours, like the front of it next to with Jerry's, ours is like very narrow compared to his.
But they've eliminated that ST1300 model as of 2012, 2014, and I think that's because they came down in size on the wing. And Jim, the FJR, a friend of mine had the FJR 1300, and we swapped up once with I think it was the 1300. I had the 1100 beforehand, but the FJR is a lot more top heavy. Both the wing and the ST13 have a lower CG, which it just makes it, of course, out here in California, Ron, as you know, there's all kinds of lane splitting opportunities, and it was harder to hustle the FJR through traffic than the ST, which kind of helps me understand why the police forces like to use the ST1300.
Yeah, the FJR is kind of wide. Yeah.
I lane split here in Miami on my FJ, and it gets a little harrowing.
You keep the bags on it?
I take them off to commute.
That's too much work for me.
Yeah, mine live with the bags on it all the time, and they're great bags. I think the bags on the ST are bigger than the ones on the wing, certainly than on the new wing, because they scavenge all this space by the rear wheel. They come right up to the rear wheel on the inside, and they still stay just the same width as the mirrors. It's narrow.
Huh. Yeah, I know if I need to pack a lot, I already have the trailer hitch on and I have the trailer, so I'm good to go.
Yeah.
I put an awful lot of stuff in 22 cubic feet of trailer.
Yep. Including the microwave.
Actually, I probably had room for that too. No, you didn't. Small one.
All right, you guys.
I have a
almost-
Valkyrie.
Yeah, it's almost.
I have a Valkyrie and I'm interested in turning it to a trike. Is there any recommendations?
Not right offhand.
Bad idea.
Probably have to go out and look at just the different manufacturers. There's 3 majors that I know of. I think it's Roadmaster, Lehman. Oh, the other one escapes me right now.
Probably Hannigan.
Hannigan, that's it.
Yeah.
All right, you guys. Who wants to do the 4-way test? Who's volunteering? Blair's smiling. I think we'll make Blair do it.
You did.
So he goes on.
Ditched us.
All right.
You gonna do it?
Yep. 4-way test of things we think, say, or do. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Good job. Thank you. Okay.
And 5, is it fun?
Yeah. So next week, Brian's going to be talking about himself. I think he jumped off too. Hey, Blair.
Blair's back.
Good timing.
All right.
So
Good
next
night.
week, Brian's talking about himself. So yeah, everybody hop on, invite your friends, family if you like them, or if you're still talking to them. And we'll see you next week.
All right.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Have a great week.
Tally ho.